All right, joining us is Cathy Nixon, head coach at Utah Valley. Coach, if you can just go over your thoughts and expectations heading into this season.
You bet. You know, it's awesome to be back here again. Last time I was here was at the tournament last year, and we're excited. Feel like good things are happening at UVU in the women's basketball program, and we have high expectations. Feel like we ended the season well last year, and looking forward to another competitive year.
You've got some very talented starters returning. Can you talk a little bit about what you expect from them, and then maybe any newcomers who've impressed you so far this season?
Sure. Well, with the core of kids we have coming back with Georgia Agnew, Rhea Spooner-Knight, and Sam Loggins, who started for us last year. We feel like they've gained experience and are poised and ready to have a really good year. We recruited some good players. We have 6 newcomers this year, junior college All-American, with Patrice Totson from College of Southern Idaho and a good group of freshmen. They're working hard, and obviously I think for any coach this time of year, you have a lot to work on, but lots to celebrate as well with their effort and improvement so far.
Coach, how much parity do you feel there is within the league this year in terms of the balance of talent around the teams?
A lot. We as coaches went through the poll process a couple weeks ago, and it was definitely interesting and challenging to try to, like you said, just sift through that parity and see who you thought would be the stronger teams. Obviously, with Bakersfield, with Outland, definitely I think deserved the preseason player of the year. Very talented team. Greg does a great job there, but I do think there'll be a lot of teams that will compete for the top spots in the league, and we certainly hope to be one of them.
And with that top spot would come the NCAA tournament bid. How exciting is that for with so many programs that have not been there before?
Oh, it's exciting. As a coach and a player at this level, I think that's what we all dream about. And the process for us at Utah Valley has been very interesting. And with that in our sights, a lot of years ago, we're really excited about the opportunity. You could feel the energy last year as we went into the WAC conference for the first time. You could feel the energy and just the different mindset, I think, with knowing that the NCAA tournament was possible at the end of the year.
Coach, you have a lot of players returning this year. You had several freshmen last year who really played well, and a lot of the scoring that took place in those games was by Katie Kuklok, who is no longer on the team. Who do you think is going to pick up some of that scoring load that she left behind?
That's a really good question. Katie had the situation of graduating and being able to transfer to a university that had her master's degree that she was interested in. And, obviously that left a vacancy. Katie's probably the best shooter I've ever coached, and certainly had the farthest range. She could really shoot the ball. As we look at our team, I think it's going to probably be by committee that we pick up those points. I think each one of our returning girls is capable of scoring more points a game. Certainly Sam, with the momentum she had at the end of the year, I think she'll be capable of improving her numbers, along with Rhea, who also I think has improved in this offseason. So really I don't know that any one player will do that. But hopefully we'll be able to, by committee and with some of our new kids, bridge that gap that Katie left.
Last year, Sam Loggins was obviously the biggest player on the team, one of the biggest players in the WAC. You also added Jasmine to the team, who is 6'3". Do you think we'll be able to see her and Sam playing alongside one another in kind of a 1-2 high-low punch?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Typically, those are 2 5s or 2 centers. Neither one of them really have the shooting range that we typically have at the 4 spot. Not that I would say it wouldn't ever happen, but I would think that it would be more that they would play when the other one wasn't necessarily playing. We also have a Brooke Wheeler, another center in that same spot, and we try to be creative with our lineups. I think we'll have some big lineups that might include even 2 of those kids, but also we have some smaller, quicker lineups that we'll be experimenting with as well.
Who do you think has stood out in practice so far as a leader? I know you still have a pretty young team, but who would you say is kind of the quarterback of your squad?
That's a really good question. Very good question. And I think that's one of the challenges of having a younger team. It's difficult sometimes for sophomores to step up and lead. And I would say from when our season ended last year until we started official practice this year, that Georgia has really kind of emerged as that leader. We have on our team a leadership council, and I've invited all of the returning players to be a part of that. So in some ways we'll lead by committee. And obviously we'll have a couple captains, but I think Georgia is the one who's really worked to step up into that role and kind of been the vocal leader and the liaison for me as a coach to the team. And you're really proud of the way that she's stepped up and filled that role.
Okay, one more from me. Last year, I had the pleasure of watching several of the team's games, and the team is extremely resilient, but there were several kind of heartbreaking losses by 1, 2, 3 buckets. How do you think the team is going to approach that type of situation when you get down to the last couple of minutes in the game? So obviously they don't want to be in that situation very many more times where they come away with a tough loss. Do you think that they've learned from that experience last year, and how do you expect them to react to that situation this year?
Well, my heart's still hurting from some of those losses as well. We had 8 games that we lost by 4 or less points, and certainly I hope and I know that the girls learned from that. I felt like we improved as the season went on and were able to manage those situations better. We had a lot of really young kids playing in crucial situations that they really weren't probably qualified for at the time. But I do think that it will be an advantage to them in the long run because they did gain that experience. And, it remains to be seen. I don't pretend to be able to project things until they actually happen. But I do think that our team learned, our coaching staff learned, and I predict that we'll be much better and able to close games in a different way than we did last year.
Coach, entering your second season here in the WAC, did you see any change in recruiting, being a member of the WAC and being able to head into homes and know that there's that automatic berth to the tournament at the end of the season? For
sure. Yeah. It's been interesting for me as I've recruited at Utah Valley. Now this is my 20th season. It's been a process, and in each phase of those 20 years, we've had to gain a recruiting identity to really look and understand who our pool was, what would draw people to Utah Valley. But absolutely, it was a disadvantage to us to not be able to go to a tournament, not be in a conference that had an automatic bid. And I would say that really instantly we saw a difference in our recruiting. This recruiting class is our first class that we recruited being in the WAC. Last year, the timing of it, we'd already solidified that class. And I think that by all accounts, it would be a talented class that I think you could link back to us being in the WAC and able to go to the tournament.
2 of your top players come from New Zealand, so this is kind of a 2-part question. One, how did you get 2 players from New Zealand to come to Orem? And then the second part of that question is, do you see the international player as somebody you're going to be going after here in the future?
Have you ever been to New Zealand? You should go because it's beautiful. I'm going to try to recruit New Zealand players every year. I actually didn't go to New Zealand to recruit either one of them, but I have been several times. And Hamilton, New Zealand, where Georgia and Rhea are from, is one of my favorite places in the whole world. It's just stunningly beautiful, and the people are amazing there. We actually found Georgia. She came her senior year and played at a local high school near us, Salem Hills High School. She ended up getting hurt in January and not finishing that year, so there was a really small window of time for us to be able to see her. And as fate would have it, we saw her, and she was able to come and had committed to us before she got hurt. Rhea had been a teammate of Georgia in New Zealand, and Georgia's dad has been a coach and is a coach in New Zealand, and so they had connections there. And absolutely, I would take any player from New Zealand. Those players are amazing and just a pleasure to coach. Their work ethic and just their coachability and attitude and what they've added to our team, I think, is just immeasurable. I adore those kids, and absolutely with New Zealand and other countries that we've been able to recruit from, it's important for us to be able to recruit players that are maybe a little bit under the radar, although the radar is getting stronger in all parts of the world, but we certainly want to facilitate that relationship and absolutely are looking for more players in the future from there.